Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today's topic of the day is John Wycliffe. So John Wycliffe was one of the poets in the age of Chaucer, and his timeline period is from 1320 to 31st December 1384. So Wycliffe is also known for his translation of Bible. Coming to the background, John Wycliffe, an English theologian, philosopher, and an early reformer, often called the morning star of the Reformation. So Wycliffe को he was also known as the morning star of the Reformation. ये आपको याद होना चाहिए, this particular point. Academic career. Wycliffe was a master at Balliol College, Oxford, where he gained recognition for his writings on theology and philosophy. Okay, now let's see his major contributions. Religious reformer. Wycliffe was a vocal critic of the Roman Catholic Church, particularly against its wealth, corruption, and the power of the papacy. So Wycliffe was one of the जो बोल के दिखाता था wealth, बोलता था, he was against the thing of wealth, corruption, but then he was vocal about it. वो बोलता था उसका बारे में. Advocated for the Bible as the sole authority in religious matters, challenging the church's teachings and practices. He also challenged church teaching and practices, like used to question it. Translation of Bible. So Wycliffe is very much famous for his translation of Bible. Wycliffe is credited with producing the first complete translation of the Bible into English, which is Middle English, known as the Wycliffe Bible. His translation made the scriptures accessible to common people, undermining the church's control over religious knowledge. So when the Bible was not translated to common language में, तब everybody had problem because nobody knew कि क्या लिखा होता है. जो भी church बोलता था, that was okay, but then his translation made it very clear for the common people. Although Wycliffe's translation was completed by his followers after his death, it laid down the foundation for future English translations, including the King James Bible. So Wycliffe, he could not complete his translation. वो मर गया. So after his death, his followers completed the translation. Now coming to the Lollards movement. Now your Lollards movement is very important for your ugcnet. The Lollard movement is when you are studying reform in the medieval England. So origin and background. Founder. The Lollard movement was founded by the follower of John Wycliffe, an English theologian and a reformer in the late 14th century. So Lollard movement was also founded by John Wycliffe ka follower. The term Lollard likely comes from the Middle Dutch word Lollard, meaning mumbler or mutterer, which was derogatory term for those who preached about without church's approval. So Lollard comes from the term the Lollard comes, उसका meaning है mumbler or mutterer, which was derogatory term. मतलब एक एकदम छोटा word था for those who preached without the church's approval. Like अगर तुम कुछ preach कर रहे हो without church का approval के बिना, तो तुम कुछ गलत कर रहे हो. Next, we'll see his core beliefs and doctrines. Core beliefs and doctrines. Scriptures as authority. Lollards believed that Bible, not the church, was the ultimate authority in Christian life. They advocated for the translation of Bible into vernacular languages so that everyone could read it. Critique of the church. The Lollards were critical of the wealth, corruption, and power of the Roman Catholic Church. They opposed practices like the selling of indulgences, the veneration of saints, and the doctrine of transportation. Rejection of the sacraments. They rejected many of the church's sacraments, particularly confession of the Eucharist, as they believed they were not biblically grounded. Clerical reform. Lollards called for the reform of clergy, advocating for a return to apostolic poverty and condemning the moral failings of priests and bishops. Social egalitarianism. Some Lollards advocated for the social equality, questioning the hierarchical structure of both the church and society. अब this is not something you need to एकदम go in detail and आपको एकदम learn by heart होना चाहिए, but this slide has just been provided so that you get a short idea क्या था of Lollard का क्या belief था and उनका why was the movement started. So this is just because of that. You आप एक बार पढ़ लेता अच्छा से, then you can just skip this. Then spread and influence, geographical reach. The Lollard movement spread across England, particularly in urban areas among the lower, though it was attracted some members of the gentry. So Lollard movement आपका England में spread हुआ mostly in the urban areas among the lower classes, जो low people थे उनके बीच में. Pamphlets and preaching. Lollards distributed pamphlets and engaged in public preaching to spread their ideas, often in secret due to persecution. मतलब उन लोग को डर था कि कोई पकड़ लेगा, कि कुछ हो जाएगा, इसलिए उन लोग सीक्रेट में ये सब करता था. If you have watched that serial Bridgerton, जिसमें Penelope, she writes the letters, but she is not supposed to be found. उसको डर था कि अब वो टाइम में if a girl is writing उसको पकड़ लेगा, then something bad would happen, because obviously she is telling about the society, about her own people. So you see episode जिसमें वो दिखाता है कि वो कितना secrecy से वो pamphlets and ये preaching करता है. Even in the movie, the one just I forgot the name, but I have a very vivid picture of it in my mind. About that movie also shows that how at that point of time आपका the movie Maharaj or Maharaja, I don't know, I'm confused, but it's an Indian one जिसमें आमिर का बेटा is playing the role. So in that you can see where how they are doing the pamphlets. So उसमें you can see how people are recording, I'm saying they're writing in that generation, and then but it's so you're not supposed to go against the people, so they are doing that in secrecy. So yes, it was there in old times, abhi bhi hai, but then like right now you have a voice of opinion, जो पहले का time में बहुत कम था. Peasants revolted in 1381. While not directly responsible for the revolt, the Lowlands' emphasis on social justice and the critique of the church influenced the rebels. So, Lowland का but they were not directly responsible एक revolt के लिए, but जब Lowland का movement शुरू हुआ and they were like चलो social justice करो and the critique of the church, वो rebels को भी like influence कर रहा, oh हाँ they are doing something right type का. Persecution and decline. Opposition by the church. The church and the English crown saw the Lollards as a threat to the religious and social order. So now अब church को लग रहा है अरे इन लोग सब तो revolt कर रहे हैं हम लोग के बीच ऊपर में. So they took it as a threat. In 1401, the Statute de Heretico Comberno was enacted, making it legal to burn heretics at the stake. This law was to persecute Lollards. So 1401 में, this is, you're supposed to remember this if you are appearing for ugcnet, this was enacted. मतलब like ये stake में Lollards जितना है सबको burn कर दिया जाएगा. Martyrdom. Several Lollard leaders such as John Oldcastle, also known as Lord Comham, were executed for their beliefs. उन लोग को मार दिया गया. Oldcastle's rebellion in 1414 led to increased repression of the movement. Underground movement. Despite persecution, Lollard's idea persisted underground and influenced later movements such as the Protestant Reformation. Impact on social society and literature. Persecutor to the Reformation. The Lollard movement is considered a precursor. I'm very sorry, I read it wrong. Precursor to the Protestant Reformation in England. Many of their ideas, such as emphasis on scripture and the critique of the church, were later echoed by reformers like Martin Luther. Influence of English literature. The Lollards distributed to the spread of vernacular religious texts and influenced writers who were sympathetic to reform, including early Protestant authors. Legacy. The Lollards laid the groundwork for religious dissent in England and contributed to the eventual rise of Protestantism. Next is his major work. So उनका major work is the Wycliffe Bible that was from 1382 to 1395. Significance: Wycliffe is credited with initiating the first complete translation into English. Although the translation was completed by his followers after his death, it is closely associated with his efforts. So I told you like he was the first person to translate it for the common people, but उनका death के बाद his followers continued it. This translation includes both the New and the Old Testaments, making the scriptures accessible to common people, thus undermining the church's monopoly on religious knowledge. The Wycliffe Bible laid the foundation for future English translation, influencing the development of English prose and religious thought. It has also spurred the Lollard movement, which promoted Wycliffe's ideas. Next is De Civil Domino on Civil Dominion 1376. Significance: this work is one of Wycliffe's most important ideological and political treatises. Content: Wycliffe argues that church should not hold temporal power or wealth, advocating. So unka, I think all the works were like somehow against the church because he was not happy with the things were going on. Impact: the work was controversial as it challenged the authority of the church and the clergy. It was condemned by the Pope and played a significant role in Wycliffe's eventual censure. Next is De Ecclesia on the church. In this work, Wycliffe critiques the established church, emphasizing the idea of invisible church. Please remember the dates which I have provided because this is very important. Invisible church, emphasizing the idea of invisible church. So उन्होंने emphasize the idea of कि invisible church composed only for those predestined for salvation. Content: Wycliffe argues that true church is made up of the elect, not of the institution led by the Pope. He denies the authority of the church hierarchy and criticizes practices such as indulgences and the veneration of saints. Impact: the treatise laid foundation for many ideas later adopted by Protestant reformers. Next is De Veritate Sacrae Scriptura on the truth of the sacred scripture 1378. This work reinforced Wycliffe's belief in the primacy of the Bible over the church's teaching. So his major works are like related to Bible and the church ka teachings पे. Wycliffe argues that Bible is the ultimate authority for Christians, rejecting the notion of the church can interpret or add to scripture. He emphasizes the need for scripture to be available on the vernacular. Impact: the treatise was foundational to Wycliffe's later work on Bible translation, as was central to critique of the church doctrine. Next is De Accuresta on the Accurist 3080. I'm sorry if my pronunciations are wrong. आप correct pronunciations एक बार check करते हैं. But this is something I know, so let me know if it's right or wrong, and then we all are learning and teaching, so it goes on. Significance: in this work, Wycliffe directly challenges the Catholic doctrine of transportation, the belief that bread and wine become the actual body and blood of Christ during Eucharist. Wycliffe argues that the Eucharist is a symbol and the bread and wine remain bread and wine. So इसमें बोलता है कि bread and wine actually become body and blood, उन लोग का वो belief होता है. But then Wycliffe is saying नहीं, bread and wine ही रहता है. The radical position was one of the reasons for eventual condemnation by the church. The work was highly controversial and contributed to Wycliffe's reputation as a heretic. It also influenced later reformers who adopted similar views. So later reformers जो भी similar views किया उन लोग के लिए भी एकदम influence किया उन लोग को भी. Then is Triglios 1382 and Summon. Number 7 is Summon Theology. In Triglios is one of Wycliffe's most comprehensive work, written as the dialogue between three characters representing different viewpoints. So 3 character था and they are representing different viewpoints. Content में you can see the work covers wide variety of theological topics, including the nature of God, the creation of the world, the role of the church and the sacraments, and it encapsulates Wycliffe's reformist ideas and critiques of the church. You just have to know थोड़ा बहुत इन लोग का summary इनके बारे में. Remember the name, remember the date, and remember which came before which one. Then is your Summa Theologia, the unfinished work aimed to be comprehensive statement of Wycliffe's theological views. Wycliffe discusses a wide range of theological issues, including the nature of the church, the sacraments, and the Christian living. Although it remains incomplete, it provides insight into his systematic approach to theology. The Summa Theology is less well known than Wycliffe's other work, but is important for understanding the breadth of his theological thought. Okay, so that's the end of the slide, and I hope you liked my video. Please like, share and subscribe अगर आपको पसंद आया, and please let me know in the comment section if you like the video or not. Thank you, and I hope it helps you.